microwaves.
Good afternoon from the Magic Kingdom. Megan and I are hanging out right now, aren't we? We're gonna go on the Carousel of Progress and then we're gonna hit up Buzz. We just got out of the laughing floor, didn't we? Where Miss Megan was highlighted. They said, you wanna see something cute? And then they put Megan up on the screen and then Megan. I did not get a picture of it. Sorry, we didn't do an intro, so this is our intro. We're hanging out today in the Magic Kingdom for the 4th of July celebrations, aren't we? Today is July 3rd. That means that the Magic Kingdom is doing their celebrations today and tomorrow. So we're going to celebrate the 4th of July for 2 days in a row, aren't we, Megan? Yep, today we're going to be in Magic Kingdom. Tomorrow we're going to hit up Epcot for their Independence Day celebrations, right, Megan? Ready to go on those? And we are missing. Buzz Lightyear.
Score to review your score. Remember, to infinity and beyond.
We forgot to say it before we got off.
Yep, I'd rather be called deadly for my killer show too deadly. Thank you, cause way down deep inside
Things that inspired the birth of a new nation.
Gee, Kermit, what do you mean?
Well, like the Declaration says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are
all together now,
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Sam, why are you crying? I thought that was pretty good.
It's glorious!
Yeah! Way to go, everyone.
Hey Sam, guess now you're the town crier.
Just ring the bell.
Let freedom ring!
Great moments in history, the 4th day of July. Great moments in history, we said King George goodbye.
And here's what we'll take away in all your minds and hearts.
Great moments in history, great moments in history, great moments in history. Great moments in history, with just the American hearts.
We couldn't have done it without you. And to England, no hard feelings. You're still one of our best friends.
Thank you all for joining us today. You know, I'm feeling especially patriotic. I'm going to visit the Hall of Presidents.
We're in the Hall of Presidents. This is actually our first visit to the Hall of Presidents. Yes, they're going to start the show. Let's get going, guys.
A leader who has not seized power through conquest. A leader not separate from the people, but elected by the people, from among the people. We, the people. This is a new idea, an American idea. The idea of a president. People don't know exactly what a president will be, but there is little doubt who it will be. George Washington's stature and bearing have marked him as a leader. His integrity has made him a great one. He steps down from power and retires to his home, Mount Vernon. The world takes note, and George Washington becomes the symbol of American ideals. In the first presidential election, it's Washington by a landslide. The only doubt seems to be his own. He writes, "Integrity and firmness is all I can promise. Integrity and firmness is exactly what we need." Everything he does as president will set a model for his successors. His final act may be the most important of all. After 2 terms, with no term limit in the Constitution and amid overwhelming support to stay in office, he steps down once again and hands power back to the people. He wants us to speak, to elect a new president. During the early years of the Republic, we choose leaders as different as Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Andrew Jackson. Elections are often bitter. Each president stands at that fiery intersection where personal character meets the challenges of the times. Some call the presidency a glorious burden. Jefferson calls it a splendid misery. We, the people, must choose well. We elect 15 presidents before the course of history brings us to the edge of a crisis like no other. A nation born of freedom still permits slavery. As the country pushes west, will new states be slave or free? The question produces bitter conflict. The issue rocks the election of 1860 and brings Abraham Lincoln onto the national stage. A house divided against itself cannot stand, he has said. With Lincoln's election, the house does indeed divide. Civil War. 11 states secede from the Union. The war becomes a defining passage in the American story. He once said he's driven by a desire to leave the world a little better place for having lived in it. The war rages. At Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, 6 months after one of the bloodiest battles of the war, the president dedicates a cemetery to the thousands of soldiers who died there, in words we can never forget.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives, that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
The blood of over 500,000 Americans is spilled in this Civil War. President Lincoln's enduring hope is to give true meaning to the sacrifices of so many. Teddy Roosevelt is a knight on a crusade. He speaks with force and vitality in clear terms that make colorful headlines at a time when mass-market newspapers have become the new media. To define his foreign policy, he borrows a phrase from an African proverb: speak softly and carry a big stick. But his greatest accomplishments are made at home. He breaks up giant monopolies, protects workers' rights, and calls for a square deal for all Americans, rich and poor, capitalist and wage earner.
Fair wage and a square deal for every man and every woman in the United States.
He calls on America to be as great as the natural grandeur of its lands. Keep your eyes on the stars and your feet on the ground, he tells us. And we do. Franklin D. Roosevelt, paralyzed by polio, knows how to restore the faith of a people paralyzed by the Great Depression.
I believe in practical explanation and in practical policy.
Bombs fall on U.S. troops in Pearl Harbor. He calls us to fight on the war front and sacrifice on the home front.
The harder the sacrifice, the more glorious the triumph. So spoke America in the year 1776. So speak Americans today.
The world changes. The country changes. And yet, in one sense, what we need most from our presidents has never changed. A guiding vision that calls forth the best that America can be.
Will outer space be developed for the benefit of all mankind? Or will it become another focus for the arms race? The choice is urgent, and it is ours to make. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
But really, it's all of us who must overcome the crippling legacy of bigotry and injustice. And we shall overcome.
One of the agreements that President Sadat and Prime Minister Begin are signing tonight is entitled A Framework for Peace in the Middle East.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. You have lost too much, but you have certainly not lost America.
I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you.
Loving this country requires the willingness to speak out for what is right, to shake up the status quo. That's America.
Our presidency is no longer just an idea. It is an idea with a proud history. Ladies and gentlemen, the presidents of the United States of America.
Music from regions beyond. Wizards and witches, wherever you dwell, give us a hint by ringing a bell. Serpents and spiders, tail of a rat, call in the spirits wherever they're at.
Start to shriek. Harmonize, memory, no stop.
You can't see us, but we're stopped on the Haunted Mansion. In the graveyard.
We survived the Haunted Mansion. Taking our ghosties home with us.
Okay, so we got some weather, lightning in the area, so they closed down all the rides. So we're just sitting here watching empties go down, waiting for the weather to clear.
It's time for Country Bears Jamboree.
Give me a little intro there, Gomer. Hey, folks. Welcome to the one and only original Country Bears Jamboree. Take the song with crooked hippie ball. When the spirit moves that cool, he can make that pill go. She ain't pretty, but I ain't too. Things we like and the things we do. Down on his head. wish you didn't stay. Fine.
Yes, folks, we only have high-class stuff on this show. And now, here's a special treat out of town.